Woodland Harvest Honey Company says, Bob, if you had two colonies right now that are weak as far as numbers of bees, would you combine or try to add frames of brood, knowing that they will be going broodless in 3 weeks or less here?
Well, it comes down to experience in your location. If you're pretty sure that neither one of them is going to make it through the winter, I'd keep the best queen, I'd kill the other queen, and I'd combine them. But it really comes down to experience and understanding your location. We can get a 4 or 5 frame nuke through the winter here just fine, but in Cleveland, Ohio, I doubt seriously. You do it, Greg, don't you?
Mhm.
Get 5 frame nukes through.
Yep.
But there's some locations that just wouldn't work.
The smallest that I've ever taken through a winter is a 7 frame, but it was in one of those Apame, little insulated Apame nukes, and worked fine.
Yeah, it just depends on the location. And the person asking that question is probably asking because they're newer, perhaps, and don't really know. Without knowing where they live, I would say if it's smaller than 5 frames, you might consider combining.
Well, I think Bob touched on the other part of the answer, which there is so much nuance wrapped around it. Is we can overwinter a single 5 frame medium box, right? They may need a little bit of fondant on top. They may need a bucket feeder with Pro Sweet in December or January on those warm days. But what we've noticed is that double deep can crash faster than the 5 frame medium can if we're not paying attention to the overall hive health. If that double deep is overrun with a viral load, they crash out. So what we have found is there are certain things that I feel like do make percentages. They're buffering the winter stress by percentages, and a lot of folks do a bunch of different things, whether it's insulation or if it's a hobbyist beekeeper and it's a quilt box, or if they're wrapping. All these little things may help to certain extents, but I think the single most important thing is how healthy the bees are. Are they free of viruses? If they are, you can get these little tiny colonies who you would write off can cruise right through, and they can sometimes be the top performers the following year, whereas those bigger colonies, where there might be double deeps, or if they're, I don't like them that big, triples, those are the ones that can sometimes crash because they're not as healthy. Bob, how important is making sure these bees are clean before they even get that far?
Well, and not just that, but back to one of our original questions, how old's the queen? A brand new queen will get through the winter much better than a 2 or 3 year old queen. But yeah, that viral load you're talking about is important. That's why people come into our store all the time and say, well, we lost our bees and we don't know what went wrong. They're full of honey. We treated for mites. And I asked 2 questions. What did you treat for mites with, and when did you treat for mites? Oh, we treated them in September or October. And it's important to treat the bees before they're raising winter bees, because if it takes probably 5 or 6 weeks for just visually for the viruses and the icky brood and stuff to disappear after you've treated for mites if you had a heavy mite load. Well, you can't treat in September and get rid of those viruses in time. You have to be treating in August to accomplish that. So that's part of having you never get rid of all the viruses. Just like we as human beings carry a certain load of viruses in us, so do the bees. But as long as their immune system is in really good shape, they keep that in check. And part of that is not having a mite load when they're starting to rear the winter bees. They can't be compromised when they're starting to rear the winter bees. They need to have a good immune system, good nutrition. That goldenrod pollen you're talking about is so important. We'd have a really hard time getting our colonies through the winter if we didn't have that good fresh pollen coming in September. So good nutrition is extremely important, and I don't think it's given enough attention by many newer beekeepers. They don't understand. Just like we as humans can get by on bread and water for a very long time, eventually we break down and we get sick. Well, a colony can get by on supplements and this and that for a long time, but without what Mother Nature's providing, it's very hard. You got to allow them to be free of viruses and in a situation where they can get really good nutrition before winter, and that helps a lot.